Greetings, folks. Welcome back. In this short lecture, we're going to talk about the welfare effects of a tax. We'll start with some basic concepts related to per unit taxes. Of course, taxes drive a wedge between the price paid by buyers and the price received by sellers. The difference between these two prices is the amount of the tax. Taxes also lower the quantity in a market. So if you don't have taxes, you have this equilibrium quantity. When you impose these taxes, it actually lowers the quantity. And then finally, the incidence of the tax, or who pays the tax, whether it's the buyers or sellers, or what share of the taxes each party pays, is determined by the elasticity of demand and supply. So let's say you have a product for which the demand is very inelastic, then chances are buyers are paying the larger share of the tax. On the other hand, if you have a product for which the supply is inelastic, then it's probably the case that sellers are paying a higher share of the tax. So here we see a market equilibrium. You have price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis. You see the familiar downward sloping demand curve and upward sloping supply curve. So nothing too surprising here. Now let's draw in the effect of a tax. So remember, this is the demand curve, supply curve, and the tax is a wedge between the price paid by buyers, which is up here, and the price received by sellers. So this line right here is the amount of the tax. You can even draw these two lines to indicate the price paid by buyers, the price received by sellers. And this is the new quantity, which is lower than the original equilibrium. There we go. So there is the tax. If you want to calculate the amount of tax revenue, remember that this right here is the amount of the tax. Q2 is the quantity after the tax is imposed. So the amount of the tax multiplied by the quantity sold is the amount of tax revenue. I will draw this in here. And by the magic of television, here we go. See all the tax revenue. Again, just to remember, it's the amount of the tax multiplied by Q2, which is the after-tax quantity. So next we will try to calculate the deadweight loss. Remember, the deadweight loss is the reduction in welfare or reduction in benefits to your market participants, your buyers and your sellers. So that is this triangle here. The reason being, once the tax is imposed, the consumer surplus is the area below the demand curve and above the price that buyers are paying. So this triangle right here is a consumer surplus. The producer surplus is the area above the supply curve and below the price that's received by sellers. This area right here is the producer surplus. And then this rectangle in the middle would be the tax revenue. And this triangle is the deadweight loss, or that's the loss in welfare. So the way that you would calculate the value of this triangle is you would multiply the amount of the tax, it's from here to here, by the difference between Q1 and Q2, and divide that by 2. So really what we've done here is we've just calculated the area of a triangle. The base of the triangle is the amount of the tax. The height of the triangle is the difference between Q1 and Q2. And then you divide that by 2. Base times height divided by 2. So remember, taxes result in a welfare loss because the quantity with the tax, or the after-tax quantity, is less than the equilibrium quantity, which is where demand is equal to supply. So at that after-tax quantity, the value to the buyers, as reflected by the demand curve, is higher or exceeds the marginal cost to sellers of increasing the quantity by 1 unit. So we saw earlier that that is an inefficient outcome. And hence you have this deadweight loss. So just to wrap up here, taxes drive a wedge between the price paid by buyers and the price received by sellers. That's one effect of a tax. The second effect is that taxes lower quantity. So the after-tax quantity is less than the equilibrium quantity. And because of this, taxes reduce welfare. And by welfare, we mean the benefits to buyers and sellers in a market. So that's it for our short video on the welfare of taxes. And we'll see you next time.